Hello. Picking up from the last lecture on Blair, Ott, and Dickinson, we'll look at the last part of their introduction to places of public memory, which takes their model of rhetoric, looking at meaningfulness, legibility, partiality, consequentiality, and publicity as they are manifested in discourses, events, objects, and practices about the past and the present, and see how we can apply them to not only rhetoric, but also memory and place. A key aspect of their model is how places have rhetorical importance, hence the title of the book, Places of Public Memory. So let's look at this, and then we'll pick up the thread again later when we look at some more of Blair's work. They start out by talking about what they refer to in comm studies and related disciplines as the spatial turn. There's arguments about all these, and you could read them for dozens and dozens of years, fights about things like Leibniz versus Newton's models of space, the production of space, etc., Aristotle's maddeningly variable terminologies applied to space and place, whatever have you. But skipping all that fun, and by the way, please do engage me with that because I love talking about that kind of stuff, Blair, Ott, and Dickinson note the tension between space and place can be nullified if we consider them as mutually constitutive. They influence and make each other up. In other words, one makes the other. And then, of course, you put time into the mix. Blair, Ott, and Dickinson throw in a sketch detailing the relationship between public memory, place, and rhetoric on page 24 that reads as, place is to space, as memory is to time. Here we come to a crucial point. Place and memory are indeed rhetorical. Check out this quote. They assume an identity precisely in being recognizable, as named, bordered, and invented in particular ways. They are rendered recognizable by symbolic, and often material, intervention. They become publicly legible only by means of such interventions. Their recognizability should not suggest that their identities, as named, are always uncontested. Just as surely as parties have argued over public memory, they have disputed designations of place. They go further, noting, quote, "It is important to our understanding of public memory to address the precise, and often unique, ways in which memory is parsed, represented, shared, and embraced by means of different forms and created by various technae. Place has survived as a recognized memory apparatus perhaps longer than any other." By the way, technae here is a complex term, but think of it as knowledge applied to making or doing. Blair, Ott, and Dickinson then seek into exploring some generalizations about place. The first one deals with the signifier, as per page 25. Quote, "First, in dealing with memory places, the signifier assumes a special importance. The signifier, the place, is itself an object of attention and desire. It is an object of attention because of its status as a place, recognizable and set apart from undifferentiated space. But it is an object of special attention because of its self-nomination as a site of significant memory of and for a collective. This signifier commands attention because it announces itself as a marker of collective identity. This is a big deal because place requires certain things for us to interact with it. Quote, memory places are destinations. They typically require visitors to travel to them. We gotta make plans to approach them and witness them in person, to engage with that memory place. They write on page 26, the primary action the rhetoric of the memory of place invites is the performance of traveling to and traversing it. That effort to participate in memory's place rhetoric almost certainly predisposes its visitors to respond in certain ways, enthematically prefiguring the rhetoric of the place, at the very least, as worthy of attention, investment, and effort. Enthymemes popping in there. Man, they're everywhere. The authors also argue that a sense of authenticity is a rhetorical effect, before moving on to talk about how, quote, memory places construct preferred public identities for visitors by specific rhetorical means on page 27. And this has communal ramifications too. Quote, at some memory places, the visitor may be invited to grasp a past that seems alien to the present, but the seeming stability of the place may still foster a sense of cross-temporal community. In a memory place, you're also dealing with others who are there, constituting a provisional public sphere. Modes of interaction and conduct at a place contribute to a rhetoric which is present, perspective, and imperative. A certain place can order you to act in a certain way. Act right. Calm down. This is a public place. Hey, people are looking at us. That kind of thing. The authors write, they typically nominate particular acts and agents of history as normative models for present and future modes of being public. And this leads us to partiality. Quote, although all public memory representations are partial, memory places are characterized by an extraordinary partiality. A lot of this is financial. quote, the establishment of a memory place already marks it for exceptional cultural importance, and that requires a bunch of money. But it also lends that place a cultural weight because it can exist. It made it through the red tape of everything you had to do to make a place. Getting permits, getting designs, bidding wars, building things out, making sure everything's publicly sustainable, making sure things are accessible, and thus those places are partial. If it's named Jones Hall, like the music hall in my hometown, then Jones had to be important, right? No relation, by the way. Blair, Ott, and Dickinson write, quote, this extraordinary partiality is responsible, in part, for the deeply political character of public memory places. But on whose terms? Question. What public figure do you feel deserves a place of public memory? Why do you think there isn't one yet? The authors press on and write, quote, because of their placeness, memory places mobilize power in ways not always available with other memory techniques. They have a location, topography, a site, designs, and spatial orientation. As they write on page 29, their locations value and legitimate some views and voices, while ignoring or diminishing others, and their materiality mobilizes power. You have to enter one way, move another way, and all of it plays on your senses. You're touching, seeing, smelling, and moving as you interact. As they write, the important point is that, no matter how overtly a place may exert power through its incorporation, enablement, direction, and constraints on bodies, it has its own power dimension that becomes part of the experience. Furthermore, quote, places of memory almost always incorporate the products of various memory techniques, such as writing or inscriptions or statues with key symbols, or flags or instructional films or pamphlets. Museums are huge in this sense. The authors write, the degree to which the memories enacted inside the museum are shaped by its architecture and deployments of space depends very much upon the character of the specific museum. And last but not least, they write, memory places themselves have histories. That is, they do not just represent the past, they accrete their own pasts. Virtually all studies of public memory places take account of the connections memory places draw between past and present. Question 2. Pick a memory place, such as a public statue, commemorative plaque, or a building or a park, and find out when it was built. What do you think that place was saying about the time it was built, as opposed to the time that inspired it? A memory place might reflect attitudes of now, even if the memorial was concerned with then. Think about the Chapel Hill 9 marker that went up on Franklin Street recently, or the Silent Sam statue in its dedication speech, wherein Lucien Carr waxed poetically about viciously assaulting somebody in the street as Reconstruction was still happening in the South, nearly 50 years after the Civil War ended. In the closing paragraph, the authors defend their utilization of the term memory place as differing from Norah's, another author, noting certain arrangements and attitudes pulled from ancient rhetoric, such as topoise and invention system, before stating, quote, that places of memory assume their cultural significance by means of their rhetoric as mark capacities for meaningfulness, legibility, partisanship, consequentiality, and publicity. Finally, we would suggest that their material or non-material forms matter in every sense of that word. Put simply, places of memory are material locales, and that renders them as quite specific apparatuses of public memory. And there you are, an introduction to a rhetoric of materiality, place, and space. But before we part, how about question 3? What memory place do you associate with UNC? Why do you think that's the case? Catch you online.